This is pretty interesting. So I'm just recorded it. I'm going to give you some love here. Hang on here. So I'm just giving you some love. Just to show you how it all works.
Wait, okay, so how do you even do the love thing? You
See the
click on the
little
hands?
see the hands? Yeah, just click on the hands. You can give love.
I see. Okay.
I think it's
Cool.
called give feels. I'm not actually sure, but anyway. So hey, the COO Blab or CEO Blab is in here too now, I think. Cool.
Okay.
So we are recording now. So this is our first show on Blab using Blab. I used Blab a few weeks ago, or maybe it was a month ago, with some folks, and I was really impressed. So and I asked them about being able to save their videos to YouTube, and they said you can do that now. So we're going to give them a shot. And we actually, before the show, we were talking about what topics we could talk about today, and we didn't have any topics. So we said let's do some Q&A. So this seems like the perfect platform for Q&A, and I'd love to know. We already have some bad. Already have some. I'd love to hear if anyone has some questions that they want us to talk about based on some of the previous shows or product design in general. That's actually funny. Nate, are you in a record store?
I'm not in a record store. I guess you could mistake it as a record store. So I'm just in my dining room table. I think this is an IKEA bookshelf, but my wife has liked to we've got all these shelves and there's stuff in here like baby bottles. But instead we cover it with artwork. This is a piece of art my wife's friend made from like high school, a friend of hers from high school. Some of it is stuff my wife made. Some of it is stuff we've bought. But yeah, so no record store, just lots of cube shelves with artwork we like in it.
So if you guys want to ask some questions, you can just put them in the chat over on the right. We're also going to consider bringing some people in. I can open seats up so we can bring video in, and we'll experiment with that as well and see how that goes. So Chris asked a quick question. He goes, "How do you know when to kill an idea?" That's a hard one. I mean, what I tend to do with ideas is like I like to sit on them for just a little bit and see if I'm still as excited about them the next few days as I was the first day. That's kind of a really good way to not even have to kill it, but to let it fade away. I don't really feel like killing them is the way to do it. I'd rather them like fade away or continue to bug me. And if they keep bugging me, then it's like, maybe we should do this, or maybe we should look into this a bit more. At a certain point, of course, if you start to look into it and you're working on it and it's not going anywhere, then it is probably time to step away from it. But I don't know, those things tend to just happen naturally, I think, if you give them a little bit of space. I don't know, Nate, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, so like, there's a couple things. I mean, from previous experience, very similar to kind of what you're saying. Like, I killed an idea when we were doing City Posh. We were doing these branded games with Y Combinator. It was my second Y Combinator startup we were doing. So we were doing these branded games. It was kind of a neat idea, and we were hearing from people that they they enjoyed playing them. I think we had like an average people were playing these on average 2 hours a day. So holy crap, that's a pretty good statistic as games go online. But like in the end, it was like kind of what Jason's saying. Like I just didn't give a shit. Like it lost me. I didn't have like what it took to like any of these ideas are going to, if we really wanted to see that idea through, these businesses don't really work exponentially. Very few things like take off exponentially and you're going to like understand their success. So like, I know from previous experience that if I want this idea to go, it's going to take us 5 years before we probably really like see some really great success from it. And I didn't have what it took to see this thing out for 5 years. Like, I think that's what kind of people have to kind of feel or ask themselves, like, is this something they can see themselves doing for 5 years, for 10 years? Because very few things take off in the 2 years you think it's going to like become $1 billion success. Even the stuff you think is working out fast isn't. Like the Airbnb guys, they were in like year 2 or 3 and they were sleeping on people's couches and doing crazy shit before that ever took off. So yeah, I mean, it's something that I guess, really just to elongate Jason's answer, like something I feel like I got to be able to work on for the long haul before I want to invest in an idea.
That's actually a really great point too. I mean, I think you can quickly prototype something, but as I've talked about before, making something is actually the easy part. The hard part is maintaining something, and that's what sort of takes the the long-term fortitude. And you're only going to do that if you're sort of into the idea at a certain level. Because you can mock up something quickly and try and make something and have that MVP and like you've got this thing, but that's not the hardest part of this. So if you have an idea, can you imagine yourself doing this in 2, 3, 4, 5 years is the right question. And if you don't know, that's okay too. But I think that's a good question to ask. I really do like that.
There's another aspect of this too, where I felt the first thing I try and do with an idea is I look at competition, not so much as like, I actually try to like kill my idea. I mean, like I try and find competition that I can use that I will love using. I feel like a lot of people, when they come up with an idea, they immediately go look at competition and they come up with some bias against them. Like, oh man, their design's awful. Or I don't know, in 2 seconds, they decide like their idea is better than the competition. And I don't think you can form that good of an idea in that short amount of time. Like, so I'll physically try and I'll sign up for competition and I'll give them a try for a month or something to see if like maybe someone else is doing my idea. And that would be awesome because I hopefully have a lot of other things to work on. Let somebody else like conquer this thing and like I can just kind of move on to something else. So I really try and open myself up to competition, I think, more than other people do. And that's usually
relief. It's like a relief when you like I have this idea. Oh, it actually exists. This is awesome. Like for example, a good example of that is Doodle. Do you guys know Doodle, which is like lets you set up schedule like between 5 or 6 people. You need to find a date, time, whatever for something. And I was always like, God, I can't believe it's so hard to do this. And then I'm like, I should make this. And then I found Doodle. And I was like, thank God someone made this. First of all, it's great. It works. It exists. Now I don't have to do it. I don't have to do any of the hard stuff. I get all the good stuff out of it, which is I get to use it. And I get to enjoy it and get to benefit from it. I don't have to do any of the work. So it is good to go out there and say, like, if you have an idea, like maybe it's already been done well by somebody else. And of course, maybe it hasn't, but a lot of things have been done pretty well. So it is.
And I feel like, and I feel like if your problem is that you don't have any other ideas after that, that's actually the real problem. Like, man, there's so many ideas that like, look at your credit card statement. There's so many things I buy that like I don't like using. Everything can be improved. And if really coming up with ideas is hard, I feel like there should be a pre-step to all this that we should all be working on, like becoming more observant. I read books about Sherlock Holmes and just becoming more observant. And I try more hobbies. Like I'll try a new hobby. Like I'll start martial arts or I'll start acting or I'll start doing something. Cause like if my problem is that I came up with one idea and then I find competition that's doing it better and I get sad about that, that sucks. That means I'm not coming up with enough. I need to get better at, seeing the world and figuring out other problems or participating in something else where I'm seeing people have a hard time. So,
yeah. Let's jump into another question here. Saba is curious, how much criticism do you take and how do you take it from anyone? Well, I think is that one a good question? Do you want to go into that one? Is that cool?
Sure.
I'm just taking it and like saying we're doing it, but
go right.
It's a team show here. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I'm competing for applause now, by the way.
I noticed that. You're beating me.
Go ahead. Sorry.
If you applaud for me, I'll give you $1. There we go. I was kidding. All right. Anyway, so criticism, I think, is first of all, you always have to consider the source, and you have to kind of look at the criticism in depth. I think I'm a big fan of listening to everything. Like I see people rip on what I have to say, and some people love what I have to say, and whatever. I want to know what people are saying and how they feel about what it is. But I also look at the criticism itself and try to decide whether or not if there's anything deeper than just a flippant response or a flippant remark. So if it's on Twitter and it's 140 characters and it's some like silly thing, I just kind of skip it. But sometimes I get emails from people that are in-depth, long emails, criticism about a feature or a product idea or something I've said, and it's thoughtful, and they took the time to put together something. I just got one of these a couple days ago, actually. And it was really thoughtful, and it made some really good points, and I responded in kind, and like I put the time into that because I felt like they put the time into it as well. It's easy to like spend a lot of time on something and have someone off the cuff go, that sucks, that's stupid, whatever, and then that's not really even criticism. That's just like it's just spitting on someone. Like, you don't respond to someone if they spit on you. You respond to someone if they go, hey, I have a different point of view about this, or I have a different take on this, or have you thought about it this way? And when someone demonstrates that level of interest in your idea or your point of view, on the opposite side, I think it's absolutely worth listening to and really valuable, and it helps you form your own opinion and maybe potentially change your mind on things. I think that's very important. I think this is true also when working on products, because even on your own team, people will have very different points of view on a particular feature or design or whatever. And I've always believed that if you criticize something, come with a solution too. Don't just say, I don't like this, or this doesn't work, or whatever. It's like, what's this? I mean, and I'm guilty of this too. We're all guilty of it. But I think if you really want to get your point across, come with a solution too. Criticism without solutions they aren't that valuable, in my opinion. So anyway, that's sort of my take on it. Nate, what's your take?
It's such a big part. I mean, I think there's a lot of answers to this. I mean, criticism is like such a huge part of like putting yourself out there in the public. Like, there's nothing you're going to do where you aren't criticized. So you've got to be able to deal with it. I mean, if you put out any kind of writing, I mean, I get hate mail. I'm sure Jason gets hate mail. Like, we get stuff that we don't like to see and read. Maybe you don't. I don't know.
I do. I have.
I mean, and like we do, like even the stuff we're doing at High Rise, and we put out stuff that we aren't doing it just for fun. Like, we don't work here just to laugh. Like, we're doing this to solve problems and to make people's lives better. And when we put stuff out, we put a lot of thought into it, and sometimes we get stressed out and we fight about it and we try and figure out the best way, and it doesn't feel good all the time trying to come up with these solutions. And so it sucks though when we put something out there, like some people love it and then immediately some people hate it, like, and it just happens. So there's always as I always expect, there's always going to be criticism. But so I actually just posted this on Medium. It's a post I reposted something I wrote, I think in like 2013. But it was this idea that like I was making my first startup was with Y Combinator, something called Inkling, and it was helping kind of people predict things about projects, et cetera. And I wanted to see if we could kind of tailor this thing better for project managers and kind of coming up with project schedules. And so I did what any kind of like lean startup practitioner would do. Like I came up with like a little version of our tool, but in a little MVP or a little kind of prototype version. And I went and got all these interviews with like project managers, and I started talking to them, and they were all like, if you want me to switch to this, it has to do like all this other stuff. And so they were giving me like all this criticism, and it was like, well, I'm inundated with criticism. I don't even know what to do with this. And I started going that way with Draft, and Draft is this writing software I made, and I started, emailing and contacting all these famous writers. I wrote to this guy who wrote one of my favorite books, and I said, hey, I've got this writing software. Would you check it out? And he immediately was just like kind of shitting on it. Just like, no, it has to do this. It has to like do this special formatting. And it was just like, oh my God, I'm failing, right? This is terrible. I started realizing, and this is a lesson that like I keep learning over and over again. Like everybody's drinking Jameson right now. I don't know if Jameson is super popular right now. Super popular Irish whiskey. People who drink whiskey hate Jameson. They don't drink this stuff. They hate it. It tastes like too sweet. It doesn't taste like a real whiskey. The people who buy Jameson are whiskey drinkers or light spirit drinkers, rum drinkers. And that's exactly who Jameson went out to sell this stuff to. So through learning from stuff like this, I've realized like, I'm making writing software. Why am I going after the celebrities? Like, I need to be going after people like me who are like just starting to get a blog, just starting to get traffic, just starting to learn about writing a book. Not why am I going after the celebrity book author? And when I started kind of thinking more about that, it like helps me kind of figure out like, is this criticism matter? Like, am I getting criticism from someone who's actually the person who I'm trying to get influenced by? And so that helps me kind of sift through some of that stuff. You're going to hear a lot of criticism from a lot of people. Not all of it's good. You got to find a way to kind of trash some of it. And so that's something that I have to keep reminding myself. Like, is this person the person I'm trying to like reach out to and actually purchase the product I'm selling?
Related to that, I think being criticized helps you learn to give other people the benefit of the doubt. I've whenever I see someone make something and release something and build something, I always give them the benefit of the doubt. A lot of people are like, this sucks. This doesn't work. This is stupid. There's already one of these. And I'm like, you know how hard that person worked to get that thing out there? Like, they deserve the benefit of the doubt on this. And I just think it's an important thing that if you're a maker, that you give other makers the benefit of the doubt, versus just kind of launching into them and clawing at them. Because it's like Nathan said, like, no one's doing this just to upset other people. They're doing this because they think something needs to exist in the world, and they're putting in their effort and they're doing it. So I'd much rather ask a question like, why does it work this way, versus like, it's stupid that it works this way. Like, that's not it's stupid that it works this way is not a productive thing. Or like pointing out bugs in a way that's just like flippant and off the cuff, sort of like a screenshot. Look at how stupid, like this dialogue message, like people take screenshots of dialogue boxes all the time with like a missing button or something. And it's like this snarky way to say that you're better than they are because they put a bug out in the world and you didn't. It's like, well, they made something too, and maybe there's an error. I'm certain if I went through your stuff, I'd find some stuff that isn't quite right either. None of this stuff is right. None of this stuff is perfect. We're all figuring this out as we go, and support each other and support makers and builders and people who put their effort and themselves on the line, and support them versus trying to be snarky about something that isn't quite right. So that's how I've sort of grown into that point of view now. Yeah. I've tried to like eliminate all snark from my vocabulary, period, because I think it's kind of gross. Basically, I think snark is like a terrible thing. It disregards a whole bunch of things, and it's really all about trying to build yourself up versus trying to help someone who maybe did make a mistake or isn't doing something as well as they could or whatever, and supporting them to help them be better, versus saying like, I'm better than you, obviously, because I'm smarter and I can make this off the cuff remark. It's just kind of disgusts me, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. And so another thing I'll do too, is I'll try and get that person to turn their attitude around a little bit, right? I mean, we get some really kind of mean emails, maybe even, but what I also recognize about a lot of this criticism is like, our most critical users, the people who are the loudest voices, are usually the people that love us the most. Somebody I just found out was like, he was so upset by some changes we made, I think back in January, and he emailed us yesterday again, and it was just, I was shocked to see his name, and I was so pleased to say his name that he's still a customer. But I also then will try, if there's some mean emails coming out, I'll just ask why a lot more. Like, I'll just try and get them to start talking about the problem. Like, let's get off of like, I know I've wronged you, or I know there's something that we've done to cause some friction. But if I ask why enough times, there's some interesting solutions. Maybe it's not what they think the solution is, but maybe there's actually some really insightful thing that we can do, maybe that we can get done sooner, or that really influences the product, that the vision that we have with the product. So sometimes, you can kind of hijack some of those conversations. They start off poorly, but if you ask the right questions, you can get some insight still out of them.
By the way, I noticed that they've called these things props now, which are better. I remember originally they called them feels, which was a little creepy, I think. So I like that they listen to that. That's good. Let's jump down to this other question here. As a career trainer, I ask, do you both ditch unsolicited resumes? First of all, I want to try and pull you into do you want to go on video and talk about this? I'm not sure how to do that. Oh, yep. Look at this. Boom. Hang on. Stephen, I'm not sure. He'll listen here. Hey.
Howdy.
Hello. How's it going?
Stephen and it.
Stephen, okay.
Put on some headsets. The Blab people are very responsive and claim you don't need a headset. I'm glad to see you're using it. There's less chance for echo and other anomalies.
Yeah.
I must tell you, in face-to-face, which is the beautiful thing about Blab, I have no idea why you decide to do this. This is the first time I've seen either one of you on. High compliments, above and beyond feels. Props, yeah. Blab has a couple of community people, one of which got to give props for is Brittany Metz, M-E-T-Z. I don't think she sleeps. She's terrific, professional, vivacious, caring, perfect for the job, in my opinion.
Cool.
I raised this question because I read a story about a guy who sent basically a new type of resume, a half-page email 9 times to a startup CEO, and called once a week. Quick end of the story. As they say, everybody says, that make the story short and they go too long. No. Not only did he get a job with him, but the startup guy, whoever it was, or person, male or female, invested in his startup.
Mm-hmm.
But it took persistence. You know, a lot of people say, like in the radio business, you've ever been in and around that business. Yeah, I tried radio. I ran 7 spots. It didn't work. And too often, I've been doing this for 24 years. I love it. It's my passion. I'm in the final trimester of my life, so I don't charge anymore. I just do things on Blab, Meerkat, and elsewhere. Too often, candidates give up. They said, well, I sent out 4 resumes, and I'm terrific. What's the deal? Your turn, please.
Yeah, this is a great topic. Couple things. So there's a fine line between pestering and persistence. I think if you're, and this all comes down to how you present yourself. And if you're pestering, that is typically irritating. If you're persistent, that's different. And I think the way you show the difference is that if you are going to contact me 9 times or 5 times or whatever it is, are you doing something each time that's selling yourself more? Or are you just saying, hey, did you get that email I sent you? Hey, did you get that email I sent you? That's nothing. That's pestering me. That's like, no, obviously I'm not getting back to you because you're annoying me, so leave me alone. But if you're saying, here's another idea I had, or here's another thought I had, or whatever, I mean, at a certain point, it still becomes pestering. But I think I'm a huge fan, and I've talked about this many times, is that the people I like to hire are the people who make more effort than other people. A lot of people just shoot, like you said, they shoot out a few resumes and are like, nothing came back. Well, make an effort. Go beyond a resume. Write something. Express yourself in another way. Present yourself in another way. Don't just blast out resumes. I want it to be clear that you want this job and not just any job. And I'm one of 100 jobs you're blasting resumes out to. You can tell that. You know that that's the case by how someone presents themselves. So I think it's very important. But let me step back though. I think to get back to your original question, which was about unsolicited resumes. I think there are diamonds in the rough, and you've got to be conscious of them. We had a fellow, a student who emailed us last year. He wanted to be an intern. We were not looking for an internship. We didn't need an intern. We didn't think we did. But he wrote me a really thoughtful email. I could just see there's something in him about how he wrote. He was clear-minded. He made a great pitch for himself. And we weren't looking for anybody, but it was good. I asked some people at our company, I said, would anybody be willing to take this guy under his wing? I see something in him. And someone stepped up, a guy named Sam stepped in and goes, I'll help him out. So we brought him on as an intern, and it turned out he was exceptional. We've hired him full-time now. Never intended to do this at the start, and we could have easily dismissed him because we're not accepting resumes for interns. But he presented himself in a way that was thoughtful, careful. He was clearly someone we should talk to. Yeah,
something
fresh. And it's like, of course, he made it impossible to ignore him, and that in a way that's not about like screaming in your face. Of course, you can't ignore this, but like, wow, if I was to delete this email, I'd feel bad about myself because it's a well-written email. So you've got to be available to those experiences to have those happen to you.
I was going to say, I wish it was recorded, and it is recorded. Good for you.
Thank you.
And everybody's taking part and so on. That is so important. Just a sidebar, the Blab vice president, CEO, you know the story?
No, I don't.
He was politely persistent. I call that PP, or even politely persistent pest, but no pest. And he was hired by the co-founder, and he's now the CEO.
Awesome. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Sean, Shaan.
I know Sean. I didn't know that he was, I didn't know that's how he got started, though. That's
him
awesome.
to tell the story. I'm sure you'll do a better job than I'm doing.
I will do that. Well, hey, thanks for dropping in. We're going to take a few other questions. Good to meet you.
Thanks,
My
Stephen.
pleasure. You bet. Stephen, it is.
Thanks, Stephen. See you. See, that's cool. Like, you can't do that in Google Hangouts. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe you can. I don't know.
I don't think so.
I haven't. This is actually an interesting moment for product development because what's possible, there's a difference between what's obvious and what's possible. And Blab makes that experience obvious. And so the product encourages that kind of interaction. That may be possible in Google Hangouts. I've never seen it. Maybe it is. I don't know. And that's not bad. It's not that Google Hangouts is bad at all. It's just that like they haven't optimized their experience for that. And so like you can see that Blab is a much more of a social, engaging sort of platform versus a more of a sort of, I think, broadcasting platform, which is a little bit more what Hangouts is. So it's kind of neat to see the nuances of decisions made in products and see how they play out. I love that kind of stuff. It's because there's subtle things. The fact that there's actually a like, I don't know how many people here have started a Blab, but you've got the 2 blocks on the top, at least right now. Then you've got this big block in the bottom, which says open seat or lock seat. And you could technically say, I could see someone making the argument that like you're wasting a lot of screen space because you've got 2 small blocks and then like a bunch of dead space below and this block that you may not use about opening a seat. But the thing is that it's not a waste. It's spot on right, because what they want to do with their product is encourage more people in the boxes. They want more people in. And so they actually want you to fill in the space. And it's a cool little design decision. I think those things are really interesting things to kind of dissect and look at closely.
Absolutely. Even the sharing, like tell a little bird. Like I'm looking at our tweet notifications right now about people who've like mentioned my name or something, and it seems it's gone like crazy from there's a lot more from what we've done in the past with some of these Hangouts, and it's, you know, these YouTube and Hangouts are not encouraging sharing on all these other platforms, but it's important to us. It
reminds me of like I've been starting to post on Medium, and the moment I posted on Medium, the traffic on Twitter about my articles took off because Medium encourages people to tweet about stories. Like you can highlight some text and tweet. Like it's just the design decisions have so much impact. Think about like how much impact it has to be able to select text, which you do every single day, but build like in any product basically you're using, but to be able to do that and then like build in a way to tweet that text and have a screenshot of that text. It just, these things have exponential impact. And it's just, I don't know, it's always fun to see products and the decisions they make and the things that they highlight. So anyway.
And I don't think, and what's interesting is like, I don't think a lot of people, I think, you know, respect like all these great designers. Like, how do I become this great designer? And like, I think most often it's not even, it's sure it's practice and it's seeing a lot of different stuff and but I think the core ingredient to a lot of this stuff is just asking more questions about the stuff that you take for granted in more often. It's like, you know, there's a really great book. I believe it's called Mastermind about Sherlock Holmes. And it talks about how like, you know, Sherlock Holmes is fictional, but like really Sherlock Holmes is actually based on a lot of real people Sir Arthur Conan Doyle met in medical school. This guy named Joseph Bell, he could actually do what Sherlock Holmes could do, which was like, hey, I know that because of the rash on your face and the color of your tan, that you were just in Bermuda because, you know, only you could have picked this up from Bermuda. And the interesting thing about that is like Sherlock Holmes, that skill that guy Joseph Bell had was because he didn't take all that stuff for granted. He would look at something about a person and question it. Like, why does this person have a tan? Why does this person have calluses on their hands? And like, when we do these things in products, I don't think we're asking enough questions about things that we take for granted. You know, we might take for granted, like, hey, let's put a tweet button in a blog post. But what's the right way to do it? Should I just copy the way it's done somewhere else? Or we talked about in a previous show, and I think I've blogged about it, but like a lot of people, they want comments on something that they do. So they'll just stick a comment box on there that they see on Reddit or Hacker News or whatever. But if you ask like, why do comments work and what do we want from a comment? So many other things like open themselves up to you if you don't just copy what somebody else does. Anyway, that's.
So yeah, we've got the CEO in
Sean,
here.
hey.
How's it going,
Good
guys?
To meet you. Hey.
One more CEO and we got the Grand Slam here with all 4.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so I didn't actually know your story about how that all happened. Do you want to share that real quick?
My story about what part?
How you became the CEO.
It's maybe you can make some sense out of it. I joined. Okay, so you were talking about persistence versus pestering. I think that was a great point because I applied to work at Monkey and Friendo, which was an incubator, basically a personal incubator. So Michael Birch had been a big, founder. He sold his company to AOL. and he used the cash to start his own incubator where he could dream up his own ideas. And I thought that sounded great. And I wanted a job. The only problem was the only job opening they had was product manager, which required 5 years of experience. And I had 0. I had never worked in software before. So I was probably not going to be a very good product manager. But I wrote an email and I made a personal website because my thought process was I don't want to apply the same way everyone else applies. Otherwise, I don't stand a chance, right? If I literally don't meet the qualifications. So if I just go in and all they look for is my qualifications, it's not going to work. And so I wrote a letter, and the letter was very clear. It just said, "Hey, Michael, I'm going to apply for a job that I'm not qualified for, but let me mercilessly convince you that I'm the guy for the gig. And here's why. Here's what I think I could bring for you guys, and here's how I think I can prove that to you." And then I made a website that would get their attention, and I sent it over, and that got me an interview. And eventually, they stopped responding. So I had 3 interviews, and it's not that there was a no, but it was just they were going through the process, and I knew that they needed buy-in from different people in the company. So what I did was I started taking their products and doing like case studies, basically like breakdowns of like, hey, I don't have the data that will tell me how this product is going, but here's some things I observed as a user and some of the things I would be thinking about if I was PM of this product. Sorry if I have a lot of background noise. I'm not sure. I'm sitting in our office. And so eventually I ended up getting the job as product manager. And 3 or 4 months in, Michael sat me down. He was CEO at the time, and he said, I don't know what he said. Basically I blacked out, but he gave me his job. he gave me his job as CEO, and he said, I think you're going to do big things. I just want you to do them for us instead of leaving here and starting your own startup because you're bitter and mad about me. And I was happy with him. I was happy with my role, but he didn't want to be CEO on a day-to-day basis. And so I was at the right place at the right time to kind of take over that role.
That's a great story. And the thing that sticks out for me is that you realize that if you applied the same way everyone else applied, you would not get a job. Like you didn't have what it took. But you actually did have what it took if you applied in your own way and highlighted your own stuff your own way. And that's the real difference. And these are the kind of people that we end up hiring is when we put out a call for jobs, we get hundreds of resumes. And 95% of them are just generic resumes. And then a few percent really stand out. They put in the effort. They make a personal site. They make an app. They make something that shows that they really want this job and they're going to present themselves in the best possible way. And that just stands out. And if I got to stress to everybody out there who's looking for a job, very few people are willing to make any effort to actually get a job. They complain that they can't get a job, and the reason is because they're not making any effort. If you make the slightest amount of effort, you will stand out. You will begin to stand out at least. And if you make a little bit more than the slightest amount, you're going to be on the short list. That's just the way it is. You're going to get noticed that way. So I highly recommend. And I can share some other time. I'll share some example personal sites that people have built to try and get jobs at Basecamp, and they stand out. You look at them and you're like, how could I not consider this person? And that's the kind of impression you want to leave on a potential employers. They can't ignore me, but not because I'm annoying, but because clearly I want this job and clearly I'm right for it.
Yeah, and it's shocking. Like I've been in a bunch of situations where I've sent out requests for resumes and I've had to, been looking to hire people, and it's shocking how many resumes come back that and cover letters that were clearly just copied and pasted from their last application. There's no thought in it, you can tell. And then sometimes I've bitten even and like been like, some candidates have looked really good on paper, good at, good projects they've done. And then I can tell that they haven't even bothered to use our product. They haven't logged in, they haven't signed up. And it's just like, are you kidding me? So the person who does anything to show like any kind of thought in the thing that they are hopefully going to be hired for, like is 10 times, like they've got a huge step up. It doesn't always work though. We can't hire an infinite amount of people. So that's what's so interesting about persistence. Like sometimes this stuff takes time. Like I've been talking to Jason Fried for years and years and years and years about just whatever, but there wasn't like a good opportunity. And then finally, like 10 years after knowing Jason Fried, now I'm running High Rise. I won't share the whole story about how High Rise spun off from Basecamp, but like, it doesn't, we can't always expect like immediate success from this stuff, but it pays off to be persistent and like to keep at it too. Like this isn't stuff that's just going to happen overnight either. That's always a good thing.
What I add about that is that a good number of the people we've hired at Basecamp didn't get the job the first time they applied, and they applied again the next time we put up a job ad. And so if you don't get the thing the first time, come back stronger the second time. And what was cool is one guy, a guy named Jonas, who's one of our designers now, he second time he applied, he talked about how he realized how he was weak in these certain areas, and he put in the time over the past year to improve and demonstrate his improvement there. And it's like, man, this is a guy we have to have. We've got to have this guy on our team. This is awesome. Like, he cared enough about thinking about this and remembering his original application and then going and improving his skills and demonstrating those improvements to us. That's someone who can take feedback and act on it. Like, of course we have to think about hiring this guy again, clearly. So if you don't get it the first time, come back. If you love the company, come back. There'll be more opportunities.
And the one thing I would just add is you'll always hear about the story where, okay, I did that and it worked out. I got the job and got named CEO and now we're all happy. But truth is I did the same thing to get into YC and I got rejected. But the thing was, the process of doing it, my thought process was pretty simple. If I try this way, I'm just going to hone my skills anyways. I'm going to make a website. I'm going to get better at pitching myself. I'm going to become more self-aware about, where I'm strong, where I'm weak, and demonstrating value. And those don't work out. But all you need is one, right? It's just like product ideas. You don't need to know how to make any business successful. You probably only will ever need one great idea in your life or one great business in your life if you want this to work. Same thing with relationships and jobs. There's that same principle across the board. So I don't know. That's my take on it.
Everything's a hits business, basically. If you can get that one hit, and then you're smart about it, you're probably in pretty good shape. But so we have a thing where we only do the show for about a half hour. We're a few minutes over, so I'm going to cut this one off. But we will be back.
This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for dropping in too, Sean. We do this every day at 3 East Central. We're going to start using Blab a little bit. One more request for you, even though I know that you like screen sharing. Do you have a plan for that?
First, you teach me to say no, and then you hit me with the feature requests.
I'm just trying. One of the things we want to do, we committed this week to show some work that we're working on, and to do that, we need to screen share. So if we have to do that, we go back to Hangouts for that one for that day. But just that's something that would be really interesting to have too.
It's coming, and it should be coming in a pretty fun way. So I think you'll like it when we have it.
Awesome.
Cool. Hey, thanks guys for the time.
Responsive.
Yeah, thanks everybody. This was awesome. Thanks for having us in here. And we will do it again.
Thanks, guys. I don't even know how to end it. I think maybe I just close myself. Is that what we do? Yep. So I just click X. We just X ourselves out and we're good.
Okay, and then you're gonna have this recording somewhere so that I can
recorded it. I don't know what's gonna happen next, but I'll find out.
Okay.
All right.
Bye guys.